So yesterday, I'm uploading a YouTube video. I think, okay, there's not a lot going on out there right now in terms of news. Let's talk a bit about the pressure that the first DCU movie has to face. Go check that out if you haven't done so already. I'm a bit of a shameless plug there. But of course, as that is posting, we do get some news, and quite a bit of news at that. So we had a new article from Variety detailing some drama with Aquaman 2, with the headline as follows: Aquaman 2 flooded with drama, Jason Momoa allegedly drunk on set, Amber Heard scenes cut, and Elon Musk's letter to Warner Brothers, and more. So if that wasn't already quite a bit to talk about, the and more is also crucial, such as Jason Momoa's Lobo role, of which has been talked about for ages now. Not to mention, they also talk about how all of the DCEU Justice League cast are not reprising their roles in the DCU. So if you were thinking about Ezra Miller, if you were thinking about what Gal Gadot recently said, well, here's a major trade once again saying that that is not the case. So we definitely need to talk about that. And then there's some other tidbits that I want to mention with regards to Superman Legacy, and even the possibility of Warner Brothers being sold. So let's get into these details. Video chapters are available as always, so skip around if you want to, but I do recommend staying tuned for the whole breakdown because I've got quite a bit I want to say about each topic. So to begin with, let's start with the drama claims surrounding Aquaman 2 and Jason Momoa, because some of them are pretty wild here. So what they say here is that on that same day in September when Warner Brothers dropped the Aquaman 2 trailer, documents from the Depp Heard trial surfaced on Reddit because Depp fans paid the court fees for the release of the documents from Heard's therapist. Now, sources say that her lawyers fought the release of the therapy notes, which had been subpoenaed by Depp's attorneys during discovery. And yeah, obviously, like, who would really want their therapy notes out there? They go on to say that the raw notes were a part of the high-profile trial last year, with Variety saying, now that, you know, people can have a look at it, that they describe a hostile Aquaman set where allegedly intoxicated Jason Momoa dressed like Depp and pushed to have Heard booted from the role of aquatic superhero Mirror. Jason said he wanted me fired, the notes say. Jason drunk, late on set, dressing like Johnny. He has all the rings too. So those are the notes from what Amber Heard was saying. And we have a rep from Momoa declining to comment about it, but a DC spokesperson has said in response to this, Jason Momoa conducted himself in a professional manner at all times on the set of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Others have apparently echoed this sentiment by saying Jason works his ass off, likes to have a beer once in a while like everyone, but doesn't show up drunk to set, says an insider who was on the London set in 2021, adding that the two stars got along and were seen joking together. So what I want to say about that is, yeah, obviously, you know, arriving drunk to set, intoxicated to some extent, wouldn't be good and isn't a good look. But at the same time, it seems that there's a lot of PR pushback on this, which you would expect regardless of which side you somewhat believe. It depends. Do you believe the notes that were taken from the therapist of what Amber Heard has to say at the time? Or do you believe that, no, like, you know, Jason likes to have a beer every now and again, but was he really arriving to set really intoxicated, really drunk? But I think the part that gets me about the notes and what is happening out there from what I'm seeing being recycled from every outlet under the sun, saying that Jason Momoa has literally turned up to set dressed as Johnny Depp. And look, the way I read this, my first thoughts were that I'm pretty sure Jason Momoa just kind of dresses similar to Johnny Depp. Whereas you have outlets out there, news outlets, news pages, getting people to believe, because, you know, these days most people just read the headline, designed to make you want to click it with the thumbnail of probably Jason Momoa dressed as Jack Sparrow, that he actually turned up to set dressed like Jack Sparrow. Now, the insider that Variety got a comment from here says, and he isn't dressing like Johnny Depp. He is always dressed in that bohemian style. And I have to say, again, I can't prove anything, but my personal takeaway from this is that when Amber's saying, oh, you know, he's, you know, arriving to set dressed like Johnny, I just think, you know, if you look at Jason Momoa, he's very into that kind of style. He loves his Harley Davidsons. He's always promoting this merch, like these bags he's making that are made out of this leather-looking stuff. He's worn rings. He's just they have a similar fashion taste. So I don't know about this one. But let me know what you think of that. Do you think, oh, have a look at Jason Momoa? Do you think he has a similar fashion taste? Or do you think he actually did arrive to set very drunk and dressed like Jack Sparrow? Or more Johnny Depp. It depends which frickin' news outlet you choose to believe. But there's also some other things coming out from this story with how Amber's notes seem to suggest that she felt unsupported by the director of Aquaman and Aquaman 2, James Wan. With the notes saying, he raised his voice at me. I can't even post about Aquaman. Made it like it was my fault. I said I'm sorry. Nobody could take selfies with me on set given blackout. Now the DC spokesperson says here that James is known for treating members of his cast and crew with the utmost respect and for fostering a positive, collaborative environment on set. And the Aquaman films were no exception. This story has always gone quite deep, even back to the Aquaman days. Like, even before the Depp-Heard trial, there's been talks about this chemistry between Jason Momoa and Amber Heard. And what the article goes into next is that Heard was nearly fired, says sources on both sides. The studio and Wan decided to drop the actress from the sequel due to her lack of chemistry with Momoa and sent a letter to her attorney, Carl Austin, informing him of its decision. Those sources underscore that the move to bounce Heard was unrelated to Depp and took place before he filed suit against the actress in 2019. Likewise, Momoa was not involved in the decision-making. Now, as to why Jason Momoa reportedly wanted Amber Heard specifically fired, we don't really know, but Variety went on to say this later in the article that at least 2 Heard scenes were cut from Aquaman 2, an action sequence that found Mera fighting Black Manta, and a love scene with Momoa, according to individuals familiar with the production. Other evidence of friction is hiding in plain sight. This summer, Momoa unfollowed Heard on Instagram. One source says he even blocked Heard from following him. And again, unless Momoa has a frank conversation, which I really don't think he's going to do with the press, we're not going to know why that happened. And again, we don't really know if he actually blocked her or just unfollowed her, or it came across as an unfollowing because it was a blocking. We don't know. But this is where Elon Musk gets involved with the drama of DC. I never thought I'd be saying that. Ultimately, the studio never pulled the trigger on firing Heard because her former boyfriend, Elon Musk, had one of his litigators send a scorched earth letter to Warner Brothers, threatening to burn the house down if the actress wasn't brought back for a sequel. Warner Brothers caved and moved forward with Heard, and Musk didn't respond for a comment, which is kind of crazy. Elon Musk even getting involved with DC somehow, but also, if this is to be believed through what Variety is reporting here in their investigations and what they found out, he was just, flexing his Musk money and was just like, WB, if you don't bring my girlfriend back for Aquaman 2, then, you're going to have a rough-ass time because I'm going to pour my Musk money down the drain in doing anything and everything, I guess, to make this a very, very big pain in the ass for you. And I guess, as per what Variety is saying here, that they were like, fine, she can come back and do this, this, and this, even though apparently a couple of scenes have been cut. And this is where we get to how this all affects the optics, of which DC has already been struggling with, as we know from the Ezra Miller stuff with the Flash movie, the lack of success with the Flash movie, with Variety here saying the drama is being rehashed at a time when DC Entertainment toppers James Gunn and Peter Safran are poised to close the book on the previous regime's superhero slate with the December 20th release of Aquaman and Lost Kingdom. And as I teased earlier, this is terrible PR, because again, whatever you kind of want to believe here or, read between the lines of, it's just not good press for the movie. And Variety then go on to talk and maintain what some scoopers have been saying for a long time, and some of you may remember me talking about this in previous News Roundup videos, for the past year or so, in how Aquaman 2's test screening scores have been very, very concerning, with Variety saying that sources say that the sequel has endured challenges outside of the Heard saga and was testing in the 60s before being recut in the summer of 2022. Despite the overhaul, the film continued to test in the 60s, prompting a new cut. The movie is like this echo of regimes, says one insider. It's the last remnant of the Snyderverse, and no one really wants to take ownership of it. Reshoots took place right up until this year's WGA strikes in May. The on-set sources dispute the idea that Aquaman 2 is troubled, noting that the film was on time, under budget, and needed only about a week of reshoots. So, again, depends what you believe. The latter there, insider sources saying, it's fine, everything's on time, reshoots are normal. But then there's other people saying, and this isn't just one place, by the way, it's been said for the longest time. So I do tend to believe that this is true. Aquaman has been, testing badly, with audiences prompting recut after recut, reshoots after reshoots, even up until several months ago, which is, yes, kind of normal proceedings for them trying to get a movie to work, but not necessarily normal through how much rigorous testing and rigorous, cutting they've done to try and make this product worth going to see and having an interest that, I guess, reflects the first movie's success. So all that's left for me to say there, guys, before moving on to the next topics, which are freaking interesting, is that what do you think of all of that? What do you believe? What do you not believe? Do you believe some of it? Do you believe all of it? Do you think, okay, regardless of what I believe, this is still not good, just in terms of a press thing that a major trade is talking about all of this? Yeah, let's just say that was a lot. And the drama with DC never really ceases to surprise me. Now we're kind of diving into the realm of the DCU, with Variety talking about how DC is getting overhauled under new leadership and it's Zaslav's top priority. And this is when they say, in fact, none of the stars cast by Zack Snyder for 2016's Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, and 2017's Justice League, including Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, Gal Gadot, Ezra Miller, and Momoa, will reprise their roles in the new DC Universe in character. So obviously we knew about Affleck, obviously we knew about Cavill, but the interesting thing about this is that now there's going to be even more credence to the idea of how Ezra Miller, who just recently had their movie with The Flash, and Gal Gadot, who recently claimed in multiple different interviews that she was returning to her role as Wonder Woman in the DCU. Apparently that's not true. Now, Variety, I believe, put out an article a few months ago when Gal Gadot was talking about how James Gunn and Peter Safran said she was still maintaining her role as Wonder Woman in the DCU. They said that insider sources of DC Studios basically say that that wasn't true. And once again, here amongst this, big-ass article, they're reiterating the same thing, but it's just with the addition of Ezra Miller. Like, Ezra Miller also isn't reprising their role. Gal Gadot isn't reprising their role either. Now, I do want to just put it out there that even though Variety is saying this isn't confirmed. Like, people keep saying, oh, it's now confirmed. That hasn't ever really been confirmed by Warner Brothers, DC, James Gunn, Peter Safran. But what I will say at this point, just, intuitively going with the ebb and flow of where, the rod is kind of pointing you, it does seem to go in a direction of, it does seem as though every member of the Justice League of America will be a brand new casting in James Gunn's DCU, which I've said this whole time, I think is the best way to go. And it's not just me saying that, a lot of you are saying that. If you are recasting Batman and Superman, you've got quite literally a new continuity to your Superman that doesn't match Henry Cavill's prior Superman in the DCEU with Man of Steel, the Black Zero event. You've got a new Batman, not Ben Affleck's Batman with the freaking canon of Dick Grayson dying instead of Jason Todd, all of this stuff. Then you may as well recast the other characters that were in the previous DCEU, like Wonder Woman, played by Gal Gadot, etc., etc. But I know some of you were still down for Gal Gadot playing the role, especially when you consider that Peacemaker, played by John Cena, is still maintaining his role in the DCU. My takeaway on that is, okay, I do get that, and this is why it's rubbing some people the wrong way, but ultimately, Peacemaker being maintained in his casting via John Cena isn't nearly as notable or popular of a character, especially to that of the general movie-going audience, as the casting for Batman, the casting for Wonder Woman, the casting for Superman. And now, bottom line, Variety is saying none of the Justice League characters are staying on, and it's just a few which happen to be projects that James Gunn was involved in. Well, having said that, me saying none of the castings are staying on, well, that might not be true but they just might not be playing the character they were playing. Now, this brings me to Variety hammering down, doubling down on what we've been hearing about, which felt painfully obvious for so many of us for so long, about the Lobo thing. So they say Momoa may return, just not as Aquaman. Sources say the actor has engaged in talks to play Lobo, either in a 2025 reboot, Superman Legacy, written and directed by Gunn, or in a standalone film. This one feels obvious. People were playing both sides of the fence with this, saying, oh, but he could continue on as Aquaman. Technically, Peter Safran said this and James Gunn said this. Oh, Momoa's always envisioned Aquaman as a trilogy. I think that's completely fair for people to say that because things like that have been said, even if it felt painstakingly obvious that he was going in the role of Lobo. My thoughts on that have always been that's something they've said at the time because they didn't want to distract away from the fact that they've literally got an Aquaman sequel releasing. But, you know, now this is coming out through the press, not from James Gunn and Peter Safran stupidly announcing that Lobo is being played by Jason Momoa and there is no Aquaman. So please still see Aquaman 2. This is coming out in other ways. I do think it's kind of obvious. I felt like it was steering that direction back then anyway. You know, the fact that we had that Instagram video from Jason Momoa absolutely screaming like, you know, anything as if like his baby had just been born or something because he had a meeting with Zaslav, James Gunn, and Peter Safran. He couldn't share it. He's teased in other interviews that he can play more than one role. He can be charming, funny, savage. He tagged some of these social media posts literally with DC. It's just, it felt so obvious that that wouldn't have been about, oh, news about Aquaman 3, you know? So, yeah. I don't think he's continuing on as Aquaman. I don't think they wanted this to get out there right now. Technically, no, this isn't confirmed, but when you have big trades basically slamming down once again on a rumor we've heard for like the past year that he is playing Lobo, it may as well all be but kind of confirmed. Only in this instance, because Jason Momoa has just made it that obvious. And yeah, they would have hid it if they could have helped it, but it's just been coming out the cracks for some time now. And it's just, yeah, they wanted Aquaman 2 to not really have that distraction, but yeah, here we are. What's interesting is that they are, and I do think this is speculation on Variety's part, like either in a 2025 reboot Superman Legacy or in a standalone film. Maybe they've heard that both things are on the table. This doesn't necessarily make Superman Legacy's villain Lobo, even though when we were first hearing about this rumor, of course, there were speculations out there. Who would David Corenswet's Superman's villain be in that first movie? Lobo would kind of be quite a cool based threat in that first movie because it's not going all the way to frickin' Zod or Brainiac straight away. He's a guy who can stand toe-to-toe with Superman. He's more antagonist rather than full-on, like, villain, if you know what I mean. This has been explored with Superman before. There can still be a lot more other things going on in the movie, but it's still the physical punch entertainment that can be provided amongst the Lois and Clark scenes, amongst the other scenes with, Hawk Girl, Mr. Terrific, Guy Gardner's Green Lantern. Maybe they get involved with this very powerful threat that is Lobo. That would be pretty cool. And also the Superman Legacy part of the title maybe being more about how should the heroes handle this situation, and how Superman decides to do it could inspire others with his legacy on how to be a hero by the book, or something like that. I can go into talk about this for like the next 2 hours, but I'd love to know your thoughts there, and what you think of Jason Momoa continuing on as Lobo, seeming like more and more of a certainty now. So up next in the Variety article, they say something which piqued my interest, not necessarily the way they said it, because they say, in a confusing twist, Viola Davis, who played Amanda Waller in both of the recent Suicide Squad movies, will remain as that character in the Gunn Safran DC Universe in next year's Max series Waller, and possibly in the new Superman tentpole. Why is that in a confusing twist when it was announced that she's staying on in the DCU back in January in the Waller show? I don't get how that's confusing, but what was interesting here is that they say, and possibly the new Superman tentpole. So this is where I don't like to get carried away even from reading stuff like that in major trades, because that reads more like the article writers speculation rather than, oh, you know, we've heard something about Viola Davis's Amanda Waller actually popping up in Superman Legacy. But I do think that would be pretty cool. You know, we are getting a Waller DCU show. We do know that a character from Creature Commandos, which is a DC canonical show, will be popping up in Waller. So I don't know what that means, and that's not really related to what I'm saying, but the fact is Waller being in the DCU could want to kind of keep some tabs on a younger year's Superman. I don't know how she could pop up necessarily, but this is Amanda Waller. If there's some kind of threat like Lobo, maybe there's some communication there. I don't know, but this is Amanda Waller. Viola Davis is being kept on. It's not a confusing twist. Maybe it is for some people, to be honest, but, you know, I feel like everyone knows by now that some characters are being kept on. But I guess what I want to ask you guys is, what do you feel about that? Do you think Amanda Waller should appear in Superman Legacy, given that she's already going to be in the DCU, be in her own Waller show? Do you think there's a spot for her? How would you like to see Viola Davis's Amanda Waller be featured in that storyline, if at all? And then lastly, guys, oh boy, my boy. Boy, my boy, as Elvis used to say. Some on the lot are convinced that another company, most likely Universal, will buy Warner Brothers within the next 2 years, making recent DC subplots and upheavals feel quaint. The bottom line is they need to get DC to work, whether Zaslav owns it, whether Brian Roberts owns it, or whether somebody else owns it. So let me say this. I wouldn't say this is outside of the realms of possibility. This is normally a rumor in where I'd say like, you know, don't believe what you're reading here necessarily. But the thing is, if this rumor has any truth to it, it would mean, as per what I said in my video yesterday, and check it out, it's titled Why James Gunn's Superman Legacy is Vital to the Success of the DCU, which may seem obvious, but we just really explore that topic, is because it really does feel like I don't quite want to call it unprecedented because I haven't really thought like wide about it in movie history. But what is happening with Superman Legacy and Warner Brothers and what hinges on Superman Legacy being successful? And can you only begin to imagine the incomprehensible pressure on James Gunn to make that work? Is that if this doesn't work, and if it did terribly, terribly, terribly bad, then that maybe would impact the decision to be like, hey, Universal, do you want to buy Warner Brothers? Now, I don't want to put like a load of fear out there or anything like that, because I do think there's like 3 different ways it can go down. You know, for example, one, horrifically bad, only makes like $130 million, does even worse than The Flash and Green Lantern or something like that, which would really impact a decision like this. It would be catastrophic disaster. Option number 2, it does extremely, extremely well, and, you know, they continue making DCU productions, and they hope that it continues to work out. Option number 3 is that it kind of does, okay, they stab on for another project or 2, and, you know, depending on how well or how not well that goes, they decide again to continue on, and then eventually it either does really well or they continue to explore the option to sell Warner Brothers. So it's not a straight cut. Don't believe things out there like, oh my god, Warner Brothers is going to be sold to Universal. It's not as clear cut as that. Yes, Superman Legacy has a bunch of pressure on it, but I don't think it's as clear cut as, unless it makes $1 billion, they're selling to Universal and they're scrapping the whole DCU plans, James Gunn's going to be fired. No, I think it truly, there is those other 2 roads, and they can still pursue it even if it doesn't do $1 billion or something like that. They're not going to give up on it right there and then. And the DCU is a critical, crucial, key, integral, vital part of the success or lack of success of Warner Brothers' future. Like, sure, they've got other things like, oh, you know, the Harry Potter reboot. Oh, we're going to bring back the golden days of the Lord of the Rings and explore more movies there set in between the Peter Jackson trilogy times or whatever they're doing. And sure, they've got House of the Dragon, very, very popular, but, you know, DC is a huge, you know, they've got such popular characters there that can make them so much money if they just do it well. And if they don't, I know I keep saying it, but like it is, they might be like, okay, yeah, Universal, do you want to buy it? But if Universal buy it, then that's not really great in my opinion as well, because after just getting a reboot, would they maybe not want to just do another reboot? Would they entertain keeping on the plans from James Gunn and Peter Safran if that got absorbed in 2 to 3 years' time from now? Or would they be like, well, we don't want to kind of inherit the ideology of a previous regime's and owners' regime's approach, so now we're going to do another reboot? Yeah, but either way, guys, don't worry about it now. We need to just revisit this conversation when Superman Legacy is releasing. But ladies and gentlemen, that is everything I've got to say in today's video. It was a proper Boba ramble sesh as always, so I leave the floor open to you guys. What do you think about everything we've discussed? Let me know down in the comments below. Really can't wait to read each one of your comments. I know I say it all the time, but I do read every single comment. It's as easy as me loading up my YouTube creator app and just seeing all of your comments, so definitely leave one. Really interested to hear your take. Also, if you want to help out the channel, would really appreciate a like. It just helps with the engagement, the algorithm, and stuff like that. Of course, consider subscribing for more DC news updates like this and other content on the channel. Don't forget to check out yesterday's video, which may be popping up on the screen to the left or to the right of me. I don't know how it works because of mirroring. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. Hope you all have a lovely rest of your day. And I'll see you people of the DCU in the next video. Goodbye.